Hopefully everybody that's joining us can hear okay. Can you hear all right? We good? Awesome, awesome. So here we got, what we're going to do is we've got a few housekeeping situations here. So if you don't mind, if you could all make sure that your microphone is turned off, just to make sure that we're not hearing background noise and it's not affecting some of these guys as they're speaking. And even if you could turn your little camera off too, that'd be awesome. I mean, not that we don't love to see each and every one of you, but it would make our jobs a lot easier, because if not, we're all just fascinated with what's going on in your living room and not telling you about fishing. So two things, make sure you turn off your volume, make sure you turn off the camera, and you might hear us say that 5 or 6 times throughout the night, just because it might make our job a whole lot easier. So other than that, here's what we want you to do. So when I turn this night over to Tyler, who you probably all know, Tyler Anderson, of his YouTube channel and his social media, it's awesome and booming. We are going to accept as many questions as we can take. Tonight is about being intimate with us, just understanding the background of fishing, understanding what makes us tick, understanding what our passions are, our love for the game, our connection with other things outside the fishing world. And we're excited to get to share all of that with you. But in order to do that, we have to make sure we're all on the same page. And number one is making sure you're asking a ton of fishing questions. You could ask personal questions if you want to, and we'll decide if we need to answer it. But ask fishing questions. Tyler needs a ton of fishing questions so we can answer each and every one of them. So we also have a bunch of giveaways and things like that to give away here throughout the night. Or actually, we're going to wait probably right to the end of that. But first off, I want to thank some sponsors. Guys, this is the Meet the Pros virtual event. This is the very, very first one of these that we've done, and we are super duper excited to get to be here with you. Normally, we host these events in person at every one of the stops on the FLW Pro Circuit, and all these guys love to do that. We miss it, and this year, ever since we started having this COVID issue going throughout the United States, it's been a big change for all of us. But we wanted to make sure that we were still hosting events and still being able to be in front of you guys and having a good time. So first thing first, I want to name off a couple sponsors here that make our jobs a lot easier, the ones that have sponsored this event. Number one is Lowry Creative. Lowry Creative is the one that helped us with a lot of the marketing and getting this kind of set up. Awesome company out of Lakeland, Florida. Number two, Yamaha, Abu Garcia, New Threads, Arctic Ice, Extant Labs, Rattle Trap, Berkeley, Amped Outdoors, Gil Marine, Gary Yamamoto Custom Baits, and Sportsman's Outreach. If it wasn't for all of those companies, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing here tonight. And most of those companies, if not all of them, have offered a giveaway for you to have the ability or opportunity to win one of those giveaways later. So here's what we're going to do. Now, if you see us stop, we are waiting on one more of the pros to come in here tonight. That's Brandon McMillan, and as soon as we see him pop up, we'll make sure to add him into the mix. But first thing first, and before I introduce Tyler, actually, you know what? You can see Tyler. Tyler, wave at everybody. So hello. That's Tyler. Okay. Tyler is going to be the one asking all of the rest of us questions tonight. But before we do that, I have some questions for all the guys myself. So we're going to play a little game. I love to talk about fishing, and all these guys love to talk about fishing. But before then, I want you to hear some personal questions. And I know these guys are probably pretty nervous because I did not tell them, and I'll have to keep admitting people, I didn't give them any of these questions in advance. Actually, all but a couple of questions that they've asked to talk about tonight have all been, these are all just spontaneous. These are all questions that they're getting for the first time. And these questions are definitely some of those. So are you ready, guys? Everybody ready? Let's hope so. All right, cool. First one's for Greg. You ready, Greg?
Ready.
Would you rather cliff diving or skydiving?
Oh, I guess cliff diving. I see no reason to jump out of a perfect good airplane.
Got it. Good answer. All right, Bill, next. This is a big one. MLF format or 5 bass limit?
Dang, I like to see them both. I'd like to see the FLW go 5-fish limit for 3 days and do the final day MLF style.
Cool.
And
Awesome.
they're both very unique. That would be my call.
Good answer. All right, Glenn, you're next. All right. Live in a cave or a tree house? You're muted. We can't hear you. I can't even unmute him. So Tyler, you might have to see if you can unmute him because we can't hear him. Let's see here.
How about now?
Oh, we can hear you. All right. Would you rather live in a cave or a tree house?
Caveman. Rah, rah.
Oh, okay. We knew you were a caveman, but that's exciting. Okay. All right. Brandon was the next one. Tyler, this is a big one for you. Are you ready?
Oh boy.
All right. Live without the internet or without AC and heating?
Oh man.
Hmm.
That's a hard one for me, but I think if the internet didn't exist, I'd find a way to make a living. So we're gonna go without the internet.
Awesome. All right. Good one. All right. So the next one is David. You ready? All right. So David, be surrounded by sharks or hippos?
Sharks. I like to catch them.
All right. Yeah, they'll eat you though, but hippos will eat you too. So good question. All right, next one, James. You know I'm going to give you a good one. I always do. So here we go. Would you rather, and these are, Megan and I sat up late last night trying to figure these out. Would you rather have skin that changes colors with your emotions or tattoos that appear with what you did yesterday?
Skin that changes my emotions every time.
Oh, got it. Awesome. All right, so the next one is Nick. Where you at, Nick? All right, sleepwalk or sleep? Which would you rather sleepwalk or sleep talk?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably sleep talk because that's just safer.
Ah, is it? Just
I
asking.
think so, yeah.
All right, Bill, you're next. All right, so Bill, self-driving car or self-driving boat?
Self-driving boat. I could retie it from spot to spot.
Nice. That's not what
Ready
I
to
thought
go.
you were going to say, but that's awesome. Hey, that's good. All right, so
What
next
were you
one.
going to say?
I thought you were going to say self-driving car so you could have it drive you to all the tournaments, and then because I knew nobody's going to take your boat out of your hands. That's just not happening.
No.
So anyway, but good answer. All right, so the next one, David, back to you. Would you rather be able to teleport yourself or read minds?
That's a tough one. I'll probably be able to teleport myself. That way I didn't have to drive.
Ah, that would be amazing in our industry to be able to teleport everywhere. So, yes, and even people said teleport. So people are agreeing with you. So that's cool. All right, Greg, next one. Beach or mountains?
Mountains every time, 100%.
Awesome. All right, Glenn, you're next. Glenn, would you rather be a bowling champion or a curling champion?
Bowling, no doubt, because I dig the shoes, man.
We need shoes like that on tour. So,
They're
anyway.
in style, man.
Yes, definitely. All right, James, another good one for you. Here we go. Would you rather give up bathing for a month or internet for a month?
Oh, internet for a month.
Ah, I gotcha. Me too. All right, Brandon is not here, but that was going to be a good one. So I'm going to give that to somebody else in a minute ago. Tyler, unlimited sushi for life or tacos for life?
I've only had one piece of sushi ever, and I hated it, so that's an easy choice.
So disappointed, but okay, we'll go with that. All right, Nick, coffee or sweet tea? Where you at?
Oh, that's easy. Sweet tea. I'm not a coffee drinker. Never have been. Sweet tea all the way.
All right, good. All right, so here's the last one, Bill, and we're going to go with you because you're the youngest. Would you rather, all right, be careful, Bill. Would you rather have to fish a tournament in a turtleneck or a Speedo?
Probably a Speedo, because it mean it'd be warm out.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. All right, cool.
Eric Jackson can do it, so surely I could.
You know what? If it's Speedo Thursday on tour, Eric Jackson, you don't want to drive by his boat. There's no doubt.
No.
So, anyway, guys, thanks for being good sports about those. And, you know, we're super duper excited about tonight. And what I want to do at this time is I've been watching. We have questions coming up, and I see Tyler is asking people to ask questions as well. But guys, everybody that is on here, and I'm trying to do and admit every time people are constantly filling onto here, please be typing questions. And I don't care if you ask multiple questions. We really need it. What we need is 50 questions or 100 questions so Tyler can go down the list and ask every single one of them. So Tyler, you're watching the chat. You're going to be able to ask each one of these questions. Guys, don't hesitate to ask us anything. We've thrown in some questions too. I've given Tyler some questions just to help fill the gaps. If now everybody's saying that no one can find the link for Meet the Pros, so I'm hoping everybody's good. You know, if not, then I will do what I can do, or we're just going to have to let everybody watch this recorded afterwards. But guys, everybody I think is signed in that of us except for Brandon. Let's see here. All right, so we have good questions. So at this time, I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over to Tyler, and I'm going to sit back and enjoy just getting to answer some questions myself. All right, Tyler, it's all you, bro.
All righty, we are so excited, y'all, that you're here to join us for this fun night. Blake, if you could take over for admitting people while I talk and ask questions, that would be great. But y'all, we have an amazing list of pros here that are with us tonight to answer some questions about fishing and family and everything in between. So, of course, drop them down in the comment section. What am I talking about? It's like I'm on YouTube right now. In the questions area. And if you could, I've already seen some people answering others in the questions area. Just try to refrain from answering other people's questions so it's easier for me to read through those. But I'm going to go with the first question. One for David. What is your favorite swim jig setup? We know you love a good old swim jig. What's your favorite swim jig setup?
Yeah, I fish that from time to time, but won a couple dollars on it. So, yeah, I'll share that with you. And first of all, you got to start with a good rod. I like a 7-foot rod, a medium heavy or a heavy action. This is actually my setup. This is the brand new Cashin Icon. That's their worm and jig rod. That's a 7-foot. That's a 7-foot heavy worm and jig rod. I'm putting that on a high-speed reel. That's a 8-3-to-1 reel. I want a fast action reel because you got to be able to catch up with those fish. And also, I want heavy line. I'm using 20-pound fluorocarbon line. And then on that, I'm going to have a couple different setups when I swim a jig. If I'm fishing docks, I'm going to go with most of the time an Arky style head because I'm skipping that jig back up under the docks. And as far as color goes, I'm going to go with whatever kind of bait I see around the docks. If it's brim or shad or, whatever it is, that's what I'm going to try to mimic. And but that's just like a green pumpkin green. That's actually a True South jig. That's a hand-tied skirt. Got a big old hook in there. But I put a Zoom Z-Crawl Junior trailer on that. That's probably my favorite setup. And like I say, if I'm fishing more grass or shoreline cover, I'll go to a swim jig, smaller profile. And that's the Queen Tackle swim jig. That's a tungsten head, so it's really small. I got a Zoom ultra-vibe speed crawl on that. That's pretty much my setup when I'm swimming a jig. Hope that helps you out.
Very, very cool. We got a funny question, and I'm actually going to throw – Bill, we're going to have 2 in a row for you here. One quick, braid or fluoro, what's your favorite? And then we got a second one.
Be fluoro, without a doubt. I mean, it depends on where you're fishing. Braid if I'm fishing heavy grass, but if I can get by with it, I'll throw fluoro. I think you get a lot more bites on fluoro than you do braid.
Yeah. And then we had a question that wasn't specifically directed towards you, but somebody asked about funny fishing tournament stories. So do you have any quick, off the top of your head, maybe from this season, any funny, because you've been doing it for a while, any funny stories for us?
Oh, anytime you run down the lake and you throw a prop or throw a blade on a prop on the way in, I've had that happen a few times, and it's panic mode because you're always cutting it to the last minute, and it's how quick can you get out of your clothes, get into the water, change the prop, get your clothes back on, and get back to the weigh in. That's probably the funniest things that happen.
I would love to see you do that.
It's a panic mode deal, but it works out. Keystone Cops type deal.
I'm sure. Cool. So, Brandon, we're going to throw the next one to you. What is your favorite size rod for flipping? Oh, wait, Brandon's not here, is he? I thought he was here by now.
No, I don't think Brandon is on here yet, but we will catch him as soon as he comes on, if he is on here.
I thought that I said yes to him. So
Yeah.
I apologize. Brandon,
Maybe we did.
Maybe not. Blake. Is there a Blake here? Oh, it's for you. Blake, I'm sorry. I refer to you as Captain Smith.
Oh, you don't have to do that.
So, spinning or casting?
Ooh, that's a good question. Spinning all day long. I love throwing a spinning rod, and I catch a lot of fish on spinning rods. And even like one of the videos I posted from Lake Erie, don't be giving me those thumbs down. One of the videos I posted from Lake Erie, I throw my jerk bait on a spinning rod. I throw finesse rigs on spinning rod. I throw a lot of different stuff on spinning rod. And that comes from the fact that I came from the saltwater world, where we use a lot of a lot of spinning rods. And, so you can check that out. I've got some YouTube videos up of me throwing spinning rods for lots of different things. And, but definitely probably spinning rod more than casting rod.
Got it. Greg, Mr. Pringles man. How you doing today?
Great, man.
Good. So we got a question. First off, what's your favorite Pringles flavor?
Right now it's probably honey mustard.
Okay.
It's kind of revolving. About every few weeks I kind of change my favorite, but right now it's honey mustard.
Gotcha. Well, not related to Pringles, but where'd the question go? I lost it. Totally lost the question. Blake, where did the question go? There it is. Hunting. There it is. Found it. Would you rather hunt or fish?
Oh, the only reason I fish is so I can hunt in the fall. I absolutely love to bow hunt, so hunting all the way.
Okay. You gotta fish to make a living so you can pay for all your broadheads.
That's exactly right.
That is very smart. Good. Mr. Caldemeyer, Mr. Lake Fork himself. Not Caldemeyer, Niggemeyer.
I'm there.
Gosh. There's so many. You're a Lake Fork guy as well, though, right?
I do. I live like 30 minutes south of Lake Fork. Yeah. We do get mixed up all the time. James and I are.
I am dropping the ball. James, we're going to ask you about your favorite fluorocarbon. We know Bill talked about he likes that the most. What is your favorite type of fluorocarbon? Pound, text, whatever.
Okay. Favorite type of fluorocarbon? Probably the one that I use the most is 16-pound Gamma Edge fluorocarbon. I like that. The Gamma runs a little bit heavier or a little bit larger diameter. So you could use it in situations where you use 20, but I could throw it on a bladed jig, throw it on a spinner bait. It's super versatile. It's probably the one that I use most during the course of a year, 16-pound Gamma Edge fluorocarbon.
Could you hear me now?
Awesome.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now, Tyler.
Okay, you couldn't hear me before.
No.
That was odd. Well, I'm glad to be back. So, Nick, this question is directed at you. I was saying that you have a very nice Cajun-looking background there, and we know that you like to throw a rattle trap, nice and shallow.
Right.
So, what do you do with your hooks on a rattle trap?
Well, what I normally do is I change them, and I just like a round bend hook on a lot of the Bill Lewis traps. They come with like an EWG style, which is fine, but in my head, I like a round bend, and I like a hook that has an NRB coating on it. Hayabusa has a really nice TBL 930. It's got a NRB code on there. And one thing that I really kind of go the extra mile with, instead of just taking the old ones off and putting the new ones on, one other little tweak that you can do is if you look at a treble hook from the top, the eye of the treble hook, it runs two ways. One way, runs right towards 1 point, and the other way it runs towards 2 points. And I want to make sure that I position that hook on the bait where the 2 points are going to be toward the front of the bait. And so if that bait is running, I want to have 2 hooks exposed instead of 1 on the front, because I'm just trying to envision that bait in a fish's mouth. And I think if you've got 2 hooks sticking out rather than the 2 toward the back, you want those 2 points toward the front of the bait. And so if you position the hooks where they hang, where those 2 points will be toward the front, I mean, that's key. In my mind, it's just another little thing that's mental that's going to kind of make me have more confidence and think, hey, I'm doing everything I can to get that fish to the boat.
Now, is there any point when, let's say the fish is barely nipping at it, that you turn the back treble around so the 2 are pointed backwards?
No, I normally have found that if I have the 2 points going toward the front on the front and the back, that's given me the most success over the years. So, you know, to each his own. I mean, sometimes you got to kind of go with what works best for you as an individual. But for me, I like the 2 points toward the front on the front and the back hook.
Got it. Very cool. That is some good technical tips there. Bill, we all know that you love the bladed jig, that you've probably caught at least 7 fish, I'm guessing, on a bladed jig, maybe a few more. Talk about your favorite bladed jig and where you like to throw it.
I love the bladed jig, you know, and you can throw it a little bit anywhere, grass, you know, wood, the whole deal. You know, the one I throw the most is the Strike King Thunder Cricket. You know, here's one that I've thrown many, many times this year. And it's just a half ounce, and it's got a 3.75 rage swimmer on it. And if you'll notice, there's not very many strands left on that one. And guys, when it gets like that, that bait will catch you a lot of fish. You got to play around with it. But the less strands in it, the lower it will ride in the water. The more strands you have on it, it's going to ride higher in the water. So if you're throwing it out there and you're not really, you can see the grass, but you're not feeling it, pull some of those strands out and let that bait go down a little bit more. And then if I'm fishing wood, then my trailer of choice will be a rage bug. And what I'll do is I'll turn that rage bug so it's flat ways on the bottom. And what it does is a lot of times on a bladed jig on wood, it'll roll with you. It'll roll one side or the other. And, you know, on a rage swimmer, it's got a narrower body, so it's more likely to roll and hang on the wood. And with the rage bug on the bottom, it's got a wider body on it, and it won't roll as bad there. But, you know, and throw big enough line, you can get the fish out. You know, I throw 20-pound Seagar fluorocarbon 99% of the time. Sometimes I'll lighten up and go down to 17, but usually I'm just throwing 20 on it.
Got it. That is smart. Very, very cool. What's your biggest bass you've caught on the Thunder Cricket?
Biggest bass? Probably 8, 8.5, something like that. It's kind of like a train wreck when it hits.
Yes.
So it's kind of fun there. And throw it on a Mag Bass rod, Mag Bass 1 rod by Luz with a Hyper Mag, and I throw an 8-3-to-1 retrieve. You know, because when they hit, I want to get them coming my way and keep them coming my way. So you just keep it wet, and they're going to bite it.
Exactly. Very cool. So, Greg, we're going to ask you, throw a question over to you real quick. Have you had any big, you know, turning points in your life, you know, in and out of the fishing industry? Just any big turning points?
Well, you know, when I think about turning points, you know, probably the biggest turning point in my life is when I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, you know, and you know, it's always been the biggest in my life. You know, I think back to, you know, growing up as a kid, you know, here in Arkansas, and kind of just grew up 100%, you know, boy, hunting and fishing in the outdoors, kind of what my life revolved around. You know, went on to college. I was always a pretty good kid. But, you know, when I got out of college, I went to work for a company called Tyson Foods, and it's where I met someone named Danny Williams, the guy there that worked for USDA, and Danny had a big impact on my life. You know, other than my dad, he's probably the one man that's had the biggest impact on my life. You know, he worked for USDA. He used to come up to my office there and spend some time with me, and we got to be really good friends. And we were really good friends before he ever invited me to church. And he said, "Hey, I'm a pastor at Sonora Baptist Church," you know, and I was kind of taken back by that. And he invited me to go to church, and you know, I said, "Man, I just don't know, Danny. I don't know if I'm ready to go to church or not." You know, but I knew from being a young boy that, you know, I was missing something. My mom took me to church as a young boy, and so Danny was just awesome about it. We just kept being good friends and got to be better and better friends over the years. And from time to time, he would invite me to go to church. And one time I was home at Beaver Lake and looking off my deck and looking at the surroundings of Beaver Lake, you know, and how beautiful it was. And, you know, and I remember just kind of becoming overwhelmed with the Holy Spirit and wondering, you know, thinking to myself, you know, how did all this get here? You know, I encourage people, when you go hunting or fishing and those woods, you're waking up in the morning, or you get on the water and that sun's coming up, and you look around, you know, and you just think about that. How did all that get here? How did we get here? How does our bodies work the way they do? You know, and there's only one way. You know, God told us right there in the Bible that, you know, that He put it all here. And you know, I kind of became overwhelmed with the Holy Spirit, and I remember calling Mr. Danny and say, "Danny, I do want to go to church with you, and I want to invite Christ to come into my life." And he said, "I'll be right there." And he said he prayed for about 45 minutes on the way out to my house. And, you know, we prayed right there. I accepted Christ right there in my living room floor. And I remember standing up thinking, man, what a feeling it was when I stood up, you know, and God's really taken me. He's taken me out of that job, and I've been able to fish full time. And you know, He's blessed with an awesome wife and a son, and just continues to bless my life, you know. And, you know, and I wear Proverbs 3:6 on the back of my jersey. Acknowledge Him in all your ways, and He will direct your path. And I feel like since I started acknowledging Him, He's really directed my path, you know, and He's kept me out here fishing and given me a platform. And so that's the biggest turning point in my life. And, you know, and Danny Williams, other than my father, has probably had the biggest impact on my life, you know, as a man. So that's it, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That was really good. We had an interesting question here, and I don't know who the best to answer this question is going to be, but we're going to throw this to David for the time being here. And again, I don't know your specific topwater needs here, but someone asked, when do you switch? Buzzbait, plopper, popper, which conditions dictate what kind of topwater you're throwing?
Well, if you're searching for fish, something like a plopper or a buzzbait is going to kind of do the same thing. You're going to be able to cover a lot of water that way. As far as hookup, I like a buzzbait better. I lose less fish on a buzzbait because you got less weight. When you have a heavier bait like a plopper, it tends to give them a little more advantage to throw the bait. But if I'm picking apart an area more, something like a popper or a spook, where I can slow it down, stop it, and that would be my choice in those situations if I want something to kind of set over their head a little bit.
Yeah. Very cool. Good. Blake, back to you. Super simple question asked. What are your go-to baits?
I mean, well, I'll give you one. One is
a question, but it's also a hard question sometimes.
This little sweet thing right here, a Gary Yamamoto Cinco, is probably one of the most universal baits all across the world. But you know, there's a lot of baits out there. You know, I really, a jerk bait is one of them. You'd be surprised, being in Florida with grass, I do throw a jerk bait a lot. The 110 from Berkeley has been awesome. Just a simple all white jerk bait, something I can cover a lot of water with. And then once I do find fish, going to the Cinco is pretty, you know, that's a 1-2 punch that puts a lot of fish in the boat. So, and that works no matter where you go. But, you know, those are probably two of my most simple but thorough covering baits, I guess, is the jerk bait and the Cinco.
Totally. Covering pick apart. That is very good. Greg, you had some smallmouth success recently of the championship. Can you tell us about your smallmouth setup up there?
Okay, cool. Yeah, man, it was that was a really, really cool experience fishing MLF style format in our FLW championship. We were at Sturgeon Bay, and I caught 72 pounds over the first couple days. And I got to give Bill a lot of credit. Bill McDonald and I shared information. We shared stuff all year long. it worked for both of us. We both made the championship. But Bill actually found the area where I caught the fish, and luckily I was Group A, he was Group B, and I had better weather conditions than he had. So I got to give Bill a lot of credit. But I did catch a lot of them, and it was a lot of fun. I was throwing a loose Custom Pro, a medium action spinning rod, Custom Pro reel, going 15-pound Strike King braid to 8-pound Strike King fluorocarbon. And I got a Hayabusa #1 hook on there, and I've got a KBD Dream Shot, Strike King Dream Shot. It's in KBD Magic. It's a really cool kind of a goldy color. The first day of the tournament, I think I had almost 40 pounds, but I lost 3 big ones. And so Bill gave me a Hayabusa #1 hook, and I never lost a bass the next 2 days. And so that was a good change for me, and it upgraded. My percentage went way up. But that's an awesome hook. I had a 3/8 ounce tungsten Strike King sinker on it. So that's kind of set up. We were fishing ledges and drops, kind of like you would offshore anywhere, targeting shell beds, the rougher places. That area that Bill and I kind of dissected had 3 little sweet spots on it. It's a big long ledge, maybe 300 or 400 yards long, but had 3 really good sweet spots, had rough spots on them. We just kind of rotated around. And so a lot of fun. You had to really play the fish down, really wear the fish out. My college football coach used to say, fatigue makes a coward out of all of us. And unless you fatigue that smallmouth, he would go nuts at the bank, right at the boat. So we couldn't use a net. So it was kind of a fiasco getting them in the boat sometimes. So play them down, take your time, have a good rod and reel, and it'll be a lot of fun. If you ever get a chance to go up there, I'd highly recommend it. Great place.
I'm heading up there or up that general area tomorrow morning, so I'm very excited. But we had a question pop up about any recommendations for clubs to join for high school fishing, and I guess I can answer that one real quick because I'm the youngest to my knowledge here on the answering question side. I have all sorts of videos on my YouTube channel called Tyler's Real Fishing. If you just search Tyler's Real Fishing and then anything, high school fishing, college fishing, whatever, any videos on topics you would like, they're probably out there. So with that little quick self-plug, we're going to ask a second question to Bill. I guess not a second, a third question to Bill. And, Greg talked about an influential person in his life. And so have you had anybody, influence your life in a similar way?
Yeah. One of my best friends was Larry McWilliams. And like I said, Larry worked for me. I ran commercial construction company. Larry worked with me, and we fished tournaments all the time. And, every Sunday, we'd fish a tournament, and we get through, and I said, man, come on, let's go to dinner. He goes, nah, man, I'm going to go home, go to church, and I'm like, okay, go ahead. I'm going to go eat, and he was one of them guys that never browbeat me, never did anything, never told me I was doing anything wrong, but he was just always very inspirational. I mean, he was a hammer fishing, and I grew up in church. My parents took me. We grew up at a missionary Baptist church, and they took me, and I found out pretty young, we have these big revivals, and people would come in and they go, or they get all around you and start praying. Well, I found out real quick, if you tell them you're saved, they leave you alone. So, I did that, and I was as lost as a golf ball in tall grass. So I just kept, playing the game. I could go to church. I knew what to say. I knew what to do, and it was all good. And then Larry ended up getting sick. He got leukemia. And, so I go into the hospital, and I'd visit with Larry and talk to him. And then he did the bone marrow transplant, and it didn't take. And things went downhill real quickly, and he had an infection in his foot. And they put him in a plastic bubble. So, I mean, the only way, if I wanted to hold his hand or touch him, I had to put my arms in plastic sleeves to go through. He was in a bubble. And one night, just me and him sitting there in the hospital, and I asked him, I said, dude, aren't you afraid? He goes, nah, dude, I'm going to heaven. He goes, I'm going to miss you guys, but he goes, I'm at peace. And he had peace that I didn't have. Well, a few weeks later, he died, and pastor gave a great salvation message, and there's a couple guys that we fished with got saved in. And I'm a flipper by trade, so you got to be kind of stubborn to flip all the time. So I was real good at being stubborn, so it just kept eating at me. So it went on for probably a year or so. And by this time, we'd changed churches. My wife, she was getting me. I was going to church, and we was in one of these big mega churches. So I found out I could sit in that balcony all the way up in the very top, and I was as far away from everybody as I could. But one Sunday there was a pastor that spoke that Sunday, and we probably had 1,500 people at church that Sunday, and I don't believe he talked to anybody but me. And I'd had all I could take. So I got down all the way down to the bottom, went down to that altar, and, you know, I accepted Christ there, you know, and it's changed my life without a doubt. You know, do I still do everything right? I don't. I got as many faults as anybody does, but I've watched the miracles that you know, God has created by him taking Larry, which was a bad thing. But there was a whole bunch of us guys that all fished that got to get saved and know the Lord from it. And since then, I've had a wife that's gone through breast cancer, and I've watched him heal her. So God is real, and it is good. So,
Amen.
you know, I can't do what I do without him, without a doubt.
That's a great testimony. Love that. Very, very cool. Jump over to James real quick. We had a question. Now, I don't know if you want to answer this specifically. People asked if you fish any of the smaller East Texas lakes.
Absolutely, I do. I mean, I really am blessed as to where I live. I mean, because you can literally like spin a bottle on a map, and there's just so many good lakes. You know, Palestine's just down 30 minutes from me. Tawakoni's really good. There's Athens. Probably nobody wants me to talk about Athens. Of course, there's Lake Fork. And then as you go east, there's Lake of the Pines. And there's some power plant lakes. We actually are down to 2 power plant lakes. I think one is Welsh, which is awesome. And then another one is Perky. They call it, it's just Brandy Branch. So, yeah, I do. I love, that's one of the things that's kind of a, you know, it's the catch-22. Fishing all the tour events, you don't get to fish locally very much, especially in the springtime. So I miss fishing around this general area. There's just so many great places. And of course, Lake Fork's awesome, but in this East Texas area, you get a chance to catch a giant anytime you go and anywhere you go. There's even little bitty lakes that I failed to mention, but there's some great places to go here.
I'm sure there's a few you failed to mention on purpose here. But Nick, we got a question for you, Nick. What is your favorite time of the year to fish? I can probably pinpoint a very specific time of year, but just to get your honest answer, your favorite time to catch fish.
Yeah, so I was on a radio show called Hooking Up and Tracking Down earlier this year, and I got asked that question, and one of the hosts said, well, just look at his complexion. You can tell. And that's true. I like the heat. You know, when it's 100, 110 degrees out there, for one, not many people are on the lake. It kind of separates, you know, the diehards from just the weekend anglers. But around these shallow cypress tree lakes or Sam Raven or Toledo Bend, anywhere that has grass, man, the middle of the summer is some of the best fishing to me. You know, whether it's top water or punching grass, man, it's just fun. So I love the pre-spawn bite in the middle of winter, but I think I'm still mainly a summertime guy. Hotter the better.
That is not what I was going to say. That's not what I would have guessed. So very, very good answer there. Glad somebody asked it.
Would you address pre-spawn?
Yeah, I would have guessed like January 10th with a trap.
Yeah, that's like probably the next best thing. But yeah, man, summertime, it probably trumps that for me. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of tournaments in the middle of the summer in the South. So it's just a fun fishing thing.
Exactly. All right, Mr. Clemson Tigers himself, Mr. Glenn. What's your favorite thing to do besides fishing? When you're not in the water, what do you want to be doing? You are currently muted. Blake, can you help me out here? Where's he at? Here he is. For some reason, Glenn is having. There we go. Gotcha.
I got you. I'm sort of like Greg. I like to hunt in the fall, but also like to, when I'm off tour this time of year, I like to volunteer a lot, believe it or not. Just sort of a little different deal there with our local children's home, with a women's shelter. And I'm real connected with our local police department. I'm a chaplain with the Cobb County Police Department, so I like feeding officers. I was with 18 K-9 officers on Monday. That's a cool deal, all the dogs and stuff. So just little different things I like to do during the off season.
Very cool. Greg, we had a question pop up for you real quick. Your favorite bait for high-pressured fish?
Okay, you know, I've grown up here in the Ozarks and been around high-pressured fish my whole life. You know, right now my favorite bait is a KBD Fat Finesse Worm by Strike King. You know, something green pumpkin or or watermelon colored. After I don't go too much on colors, but that fat finesse worm on an 1/8 ounce shaky head, that's my go-to bait in highly pressured lakes.
Awesome. Super simple. Keep it easy. Keep it easy. Well, we got a question right here for James. I'm going to throw it back to you real quick. Bass fishing is expensive. We all know that. Whatever side of the coin you're on, whether it's my side on the social media or you and the rest of these guys on the pros. So what kind of financial advice do you have for somebody that wants to pursue fishing in any avenue?
I've got a lot of advice there. First off, if you're single, obviously you could probably go further alone, but it's actually you probably go faster alone, but you could go further with somebody. I'm married. If you're going to get married, marry well. Marry somebody that will, help you kind of be frugal and make wise financial decisions that way. Somebody that's going to be there to support you in this, because there's going to be lean years and there's going to be good years and those types of things. But, for me, for most of my life, I tried it up my own way, just kind of being frugal and just, saving all my money so I could spend it on tournaments and different things like that. And I just amassed a mountain of debt. And then I would win some money and pay it down or pay it off, and then a mountain of debt would reoccur. And later, I became a Christian later in life, and I remember being at church, and this pastor, I was actually just visiting this church for a period, and this pastor got up and said, "I'm going to preach a very unpopular message, and that is about tithing." And he talked about how he guaranteed that you could live better on 90% of your income or wages than 100%. 90% with God than 100% without God. So he challenged everyone. He said, give God 6 months to show himself faithful, and tithe 10% of your income, 10% of whatever you have to God, to the church, and see if God doesn't show himself faithful. So I was like, newly a Christian. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. And my life verse at that point was Matthew 6:33, first seek the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all else will be added unto you. And so keeping God first, just went in line with my finances and everything in life. So I immediately tried to start tithing. And actually at that point in my life, I had a ton of debt, and I was living in a barn. Now the barn had heat and AC, and then down below there was a shower and a washing machine and sink and stuff like that. So I was just barely getting by, and it was week to week for me. So I didn't know where the money was going to come from. But I was like, all right, I'm going to give God 6 months, just like Pastor challenged us. And so here I am tithing, and I don't know where it's coming from, because like I said, I'm just making bills. I'm just barely getting by, and because fishing is that expensive. And shortly into it, I was guiding on Lake Fork, so I started to get some extra guide trips. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. Just like perfect timing. I'm starting to get some extra guide trips. So that's kind of easing things up around the collar. And then I was actually working for a tackle store, and just out of the blue, unsolicited, I got a raise. And I was like, oh my goodness, like God is really, he's doing this. And in this, because I was a new Christian, I was really, growing in my faith, and I felt closer and closer to God. And then I was fishing some individual tournaments. And in this one tournament, I did well, and I got big bass of the tournament. And big bass was $500. It was more money than I won for the place that I was in. And I'm just like, God, you're just showing off now. I mean, like all of a sudden I've got more money than I normally do, and way more. And then the next month, I didn't even place in the tournament, but I got big bass again. I mean, what are the chances of getting big bass twice in 2 months and in a field like that? And so it was amazing to see, God reveal himself to me, to make himself real to me. And my faith just grew in that. And I'm not saying that in that you're just never going to have any issues with finances, because like anything, you're going to have ups and downs in life. But I do know one thing. I trust God with my finances, and just follow after him. And I'd much rather live with 90% with God than 100% without him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love to hear that. Now, you said that what's the odds of you catching big bass in a good field? You are downplaying your skills, James. You are an expert big bass fisherman. I don't want to hear that anymore. Cool.
I appreciate that, Tyler.
Of course, yeah. We got a question. We're going to throw it back to Nick real quick. If you could only fish one way the rest of your life, what would it be?
Probably just a 1/2 ounce flipping jig, fluorocarbon on a bait caster. And I'd take like a V&M adrenaline flipping jig, 1/2 ounce. Man, I would be torn on the color, but probably just black and blue, the black and blue flat wild. And that would be a bait that I can flip at a cypress tree or dock. I could swim it, like a swim jig if needed. And if I was patient enough, I could fish it out deep. So 1/2 ounce flipping jig, fluorocarbon, roll with it.
Exactly. That is awesome. Well, we got, I think Mr. McMillan finally showed up, but I don't see his audio's on. So we got a question for him, but we're going to have to wait till he figures out his audio situation. So let's go back to.
I think he's on now. I
Is he
think
on now?
he can unmute himself and he can talk now. So he's ready to go. You can ask him the
There
next.
we go. Mr. McMillan, you are ready to be unmuted. We're going to ask you real quick. Question is, what is your favorite size rod for flipping?
Man, if I'm going to use a mat rod, like 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce, I like a 7-Eleven. That's pretty much my staple. 7.9, 7.10, 7-Eleven. That's pretty much my go-to.
Awesome. Very cool. What's your biggest bass you ever caught flipping?
I caught a 10-7 on Okeechobee several years ago under a mat, and it's pretty cool. We don't catch a lot of 10-pounders down here, but it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. It gave me all I wanted.
That is awesome. Very fun. Let's see. We're going to grab a question from the live chat real quick. Blake, who do you think has the worst co-angler experience? If we're allowed to harp on our co-anglers a little bit in a fun way.
That's a good question. I love co-anglers. I'm a people person, but I have had some interesting co-angler days. I don't even want to give you stories, but I know some stories about some of these guys that are on here and their co-angler stories, like Bill, and he knows that we're not going to talk about it, but on Kentucky Lake at all.
I can twist the question around, and I'll throw this one to David. In terms of having co-anglers, somebody out there wants to be a co-angler. What do you think is a few good tips for them to be the best co-angler?
Probably one thing you need to do is try something different than what your boater's doing. I see a lot of guys make that mistake. If I'm fishing and I'm dialed in and I'm catching fish, say on a certain bait, a lot of them will pick up that exact same bait and try to catch fish behind me. And if I'm dialed in, I'm not leaving much behind. So pick up something different, and try fishing in a different water column, a little deeper, a little shallower, make a different cast, a little different presentation.
I have to chime in there because that was Chris Wells that asked you that, David. So, yeah. So anyway, that's a good question though.
Very fun. Well, let's see real quick. Greg, Mr. Pringles, what is your favorite color top water?
I'm pretty simple on colors. I usually, if it's a little bit stained, I throw bone colored. If it's clear, I throw a more translucent color, some type of shad color. Around the brim spawn, I'm going to throw something brim colored, but it's usually either bone, a clear blue type of thing, or bluegill.
Does cloud cover sunlight have anything to do with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I usually want a more solid color, in the cloud cover. Anytime there's smallmouth around or spotted bass, I go away from that and I want some bright color on there, either an orange or a chartreuse. So anytime I've got spots or smallmouth, I'm definitely adding some bright colors to that top water.
Got it. That's awesome. Blake, power fishing or finesse?
Oh man, finesse. I like the finesse fish. Y'all asked me spinning rod or baitcaster earlier, and I like I like light line with a spinning rod and a Cinco or a wacky rig and things like that, which, hey, you can do it anywhere in the country and catch a bunch of big fish. So that's probably finesse.
I saw Nick's face when you gave that initial answer. He was just shocked. You live in Florida, son. You're crazy. You're crazy. That's great. Brandon, what brand hooks do you prefer?
Gamakatsu. I mean, hands down, they seem to be the best. You know, I've tried a bunch of them over the years. I just keep going back to just the old school Gamakatsus. I like the treble hooks. You know, they get the job done. Flipping hooks, in my opinion, that 4/0 super heavy cover Gamakatsu, that's about as good as a flipping hook is out there on the market. That's all I've used. That's all I've used for several years. Yeah, I like them. It's pretty solid.
Keep it simple. That's the way to go. Glenn, back to you real quick. Everybody knows you're a football man. So tell us a little bit about your football history.
Well, let's see. I've got a picture here. Maybe I can give y'all a I got a good background. This will date me just a little bit on my age, but back 1982, I walked on at Clemson and met a very big person, and he was number 66, and his name was William the Refrigerator Perry. And my mom told me to stay away from that man. He could hurt me. I said, yes, ma'am, I will. So, Tyler, that was probably before you were born. You may not even know who that person is, but he was a phenomenal Clemson football player and a Chicago Bear.
Oh, you said you went up against him?
No, we both played defense. He played nose guard, and I played defensive back. So I tried to stay away from him because, like, if you were on the bottom of the pile and he was on the top, you could have some serious injuries. I mean, I was blind one time after he fell on me. Well, then they turned my helmet around. I could see a whole lot better then, but yeah. That's
wild. That's crazy. Bill, this is not specifically directed at you, but someone asked favorite they said favorite black bass species, but that completely eliminates the entire question. So what's your favorite species of bass to target?
Yeah, that's a trick question. I mean, I love catching smallmouth. There's no doubt about it. But a big largemouth in Florida or Texas, when you can put a flipping stick in your hand, that short hand-to-hand battle, there ain't nothing like that. So, like I said, I've been blessed to catch big largemouths and big smallmouths, but they're both unique in their own way. But I'll go with the big largemouth.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, Nick, we're going to go to you real quick and ask you about probably, I could be wrong, about your biggest, success when it comes to tournament fishing, winning the BFL All-American. I know that I watched that and it inspired me to want to be a better tournament angler and then get my skills even higher. So tell us what it was like to win $100,000 and the opportunity to be the BFL All-American.
Wow, man, so much comes to mind when I hear All-American. It was definitely one of the greatest moments, of my life and my career, and it opened up a lot of doors for me. It qualified me for the tour. But man, there's just so much more to that story. And I guess what I want people to know is this. Leading up to that tournament, I mean, fishing kind of was my everything. It was my idol. And it's really all I kind of cared about. And I remember thinking that, man, the All-Americans coming to Cross Lake, and I've got to find a way to qualify. Man, this is my chance. And, I'm in my early 30s at the time, and this is 2018. I've got a ton that's just wrong in my life. I'm just doing things my own way. I'm doing things that are ruining me as a man. I'm doing things that are ruining my marriage and my family, but it's all about fishing. It's all about fishing. But, I remember qualifying for that tournament and just feeling like if I could just win this All-American, it would fix everything, and I wouldn't feel this way anymore. And you know what? I had 62 pounds for 3 days, and I won. It was an amazing event. And I remember being on stage and getting that trophy and being on TV and getting that $100,000 check. And I come from a little small town called Vivian, Louisiana, and $100,000 is a lot of money. But I remember getting all those worldly temporary things, and man, I just felt more empty than ever. And I felt more hopeless than ever. And I just remember after that tournament, I was like, man, is this it? Like, this can't be it. Like, there's gotta be something I'm missing here. There's gotta be more to it. And, but there wasn't, you know, so, it left me feeling empty and hopeless. And, you know, actually was on the verge of committing suicide a few weeks after that. The enemy had told me that, man, your marriage is over, your family's over, you're too far gone, there's no hope for you. But that's exactly what it is. It's a lie of the enemy. And God put people in my path to divert me from doing that. And he gave me a second chance. And he put people in my path to remind me of the gospel of Jesus Christ that I'd heard so many times, and to remind me of all the times that God was tugging at me, you know, wanting me to turn from my way and turn to him. And on July the 8th, 2018, my wife asked me to go to church with her. And, you know, little did I know, my wife had been praying for me for 6 years of our marriage. And I went to church with her that day, and that was the day that just really impacted my life. I surrendered my life to Jesus Christ, and he fulfilled me. He made me new. I was born again, and all that guilt and shame and emptiness was filled up with the blood of Jesus. And, you know, so that's what I'd encourage people is, you know, winning tournaments is awesome. It's a great feeling, but in the grand scheme of things, if you were to die today, like, hey, where would you be spending eternity? And that's like the biggest question. And so I'm so glad that I was given another chance to really make the right decisions and to get back and to put priorities right where they should be. And now fishing is the third most important thing in my life. It's Jesus, my family, then fishing. And so, you know, whenever you think that things are too far gone and things are hopeless and you should just give up, don't, because that's the lie of the enemy. And I'm speaking from experience. And so, when the All-American, I mean, there's a lot of different emotions there, but that was such a huge time in my life, not only for building my platform and going pro and kind of getting on the map, but that was one of the things that led me to salvation in Jesus. So just so happy and thrilled about that. And if anybody has any questions about that or wants to know more or the full story, message me sometime, you know, reach out. Don't hesitate.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Nick.
You're welcome.
All right, Bill, we got a question for you. What is the most versatile bait? And you may have already answered it, but the most versatile bait around the country you can think of?
One bait, rage bug. I mean, you can take a Strike King rage bug and you can do anything in the world with that one bait. You know, you can swim it, you can drop it, you know, it's just, there's a lot of different things you can do with that bait. So if I left the house tomorrow and they told me to take one bait anywhere I went, that would be the bait I'd take with me.
Awesome. That's a good one. Now, we had asked Bill this question earlier, and he said smallmouth, but James, what do you say about the smallmouth versus largemouth versus spotted bass debate?
I was listening recently to I guess it's a podcast. It's with Matt Airy and Brian Thrift, and the name of their podcast was "Smallmouth Are the Enemy." And they were trying to get that to go viral. They said hashtag smallmouth is the enemy. No, don't get me wrong. I love to fish for smallmouth. Smallmouth have been a challenge for me. Being from Texas, for sure, they've been a challenge for me. And I definitely need to brush up on my smallmouth game because every year the tour goes north. And I keep thinking that every year I'm going to get better and better at it. And I think that somehow I am, but I'd like to see the fruits of that labor here pretty soon. So I would obviously say, yeah, largemouth, 100%. Probably I would even actually put spotted bass before smallmouth. But I love largemouth. That's definitely a 100%.
That is great. All right, Blake, we got a double header for you first. Real quick, everybody wants to know what boat you're running next year.
Oh, good question. There's a lot of you on here, and I will be running a Skeeter next year on the FLW Pro Circuit and Bass Opens or wherever I'm fishing next year. So yeah, I'm excited about that. That's going to be it's going to be a change. I know Tyler, I know you're in the Skeeter, and I know Nick's in the Skeeter, and I'm super duper excited to be a part of that family, and I'm thankful for my years in the past with Ranger. And just like this career and just like the industry, it is constantly changing, and I'm excited to get to change with it.
Awesome. And then keeping you on the spot here, was there a point in your life that you think your faith was really, made real to you?
Man, Tyler, that's an excellent question. I feel like I've had faith, I want to say little faith, since I was little. I got baptized when I was really young and been in church my whole life. Probably even before I was born, there's always been a time in my life that I was around church, and I definitely played the game extremely well. I'd go to church on Sundays and Wednesdays, and I enjoyed being there, but I really didn't sell out. And I say that loosely. I never felt like there was ever a time that I truly had that deep walk connection. And, it's been about 8 years now. I had a point in my life where I started to really, everything was going, what I felt like was good in a worldly standpoint, and when it comes to having things, having nice cars, and an amazing wife. And I had a little girl, my first little baby, Annie, at the time. And my wife was extremely pregnant with our second one. Everything seemed to be kind of going normal. The one thing that wasn't going normal was my walk with Jesus. I didn't have a deep one. And, man, I started feeling bad and not having, having a lot of issues, like started really having more heart palpitations and still feeling tired and starting to feel a lot of bad things. And I remember going to a doctor, and they ran a bunch of tests. Didn't think anything of it. I'd been to a doctor many times, had many tests run, and I'll never forget the day I got that phone call from a doctor. His name was Dr. Kevin Brown in Lakeland, Florida, and he had a team of 10 doctors with him, and they were sitting there, and he goes, "Blake, what are you doing?" And I said, "Man, I'm just driving somewhere." And he said, "Well, hey, I want you to get Megan on the phone, and I got something I need to tell you." And I said, "Okay." I remember pulling over, and we had Megan on the phone, and obviously we were pretty confused. Anytime a cardiologist is going to call you, it definitely calls for, while you're driving down the road, it calls for some concern. But he told me, he said, "Blake," he said, "there's a team of us sitting here, and there's not one of us that know how you're still alive." And I remember being knocked in my tracks, kind of just sitting there like, "What do you mean you don't know how I'm alive?" I mean, at the time I was playing ice hockey, I was playing softball, men's softball, I was fishing. I mean, I was doing everything that everything active that I could find to do. I mean, it was in my 20s. And I remember, questioning him, and I said, "Hey, what do you mean? What do you mean I have something wrong with me?" And he said, "Blake," he said, "if there was a list for people in the United States that had a risk of sudden death, you would be at the top of the list. And based on our findings, you have a disease called sudden death syndrome." And I remember being shocked and rocked and not knowing really what to do. And he said, if you hit the ground right now, there's no bringing you back. And I remember stopping in my tracks. I went home. Megan was taking care of me and trying to help me relax and go to, we were going to the hospital the next day or 2 days later to have surgery, and they were going to implant an ICD into my chest. And I remember going there and getting to the hospital that day and not knowing what to expect. And we got there, my whole family was there. And I remember sitting in my room waiting for pre-op for them to start the process. And my doctor came in and he said, "Hey, I don't normally meet with people before, but I had to come meet with you because when we stop your heart is so bad that there's only a 50% chance that we're going to be able to restart you." And I broke. I remember at that particular point, I started praying, you know, and I'd prayed my whole life, but I really started praying. And it was the first time I ran out of things to pray about. I truly ran out of things to talk to God about, because it was like, man, everything that I'd been taught, everything I'd heard, everything I had experienced my whole life in 5 seconds became real. And for me, it was mind blowing, because here I am with a wife, my little baby girl, Annie, and my wife, and Megan was like 32 months pregnant with our second one, because she was about to pop, literally is what I mean by that. And I have a 50% chance of waking up in the next hour. And I remember praying to God, and everything stopped and everything became real. And what occurred to me for the very first time, and I feel like I know for a fact that I had prayed as a kid and asked Jesus into my heart and to forgive me of my sins. And I knew I was promised eternity because I made that commitment to God. But for the first time, it became real. I knew that when I closed my eyes, when they stopped me, when I went to sleep, that when I woke back up, I was either going to be face to face with Megan, or I was going to be, for the first time ever, face to face with my Savior. And there's never been a chance, and never been a time that it was more real than that. And what was cool after it, obviously I woke back up. I mean, I'm here tonight, right? So that's exciting. But they had to hit me twice with maximum volts with paddles to be able to restart me. And they didn't fix me. I still to this day have sudden death syndrome. I still to this day have a 900 volt defibrillator, the biggest, baddest one they make, built into my chest, that if I hit the ground, there's still a 50% chance that it won't restart me. But the cool thing about it is my relationship with Jesus has become real. And my dedication to Jesus has become real. And my cause for Christ has become real. And I tell everybody that because I want people to understand. I want people to understand that, hey, it is real. And we're not promised tomorrow. And we have to live every day like it's our last. And that's what I try and do now.
That's awesome. That is very cool. How so? Is it? Can you go through the airport security system with the big old thing?
No, I can't, which is nice. They kind of put me through, and everybody thinks I'm a celebrity or Scott Martin or something. So it works out really well.
That's awesome. Very cool. We're going to throw two things to Greg here real quick. First off, how do you know what to look for in a rod? It's a very broad question, but what do you know to look for when you're picking out a rod?
Well, one thing, you have to be specific to what bait you want, you know. And so one thing, Bill mentioned a Magnum Bass 1 rod. Lewis makes a custom pro Magnum Bass 1. It's 7-foot medium heavy. I use it for like 7 or 8 different things. I use it for a buzz bait, spinner bait, bladed jig, walking top water bait, a finesse jig. And so if I'm looking for a rod, you know, if you want to try to get something you can do a lot with, a custom pro Magnum Bass 1 rod from Lewis is my workhorse rod. I do a lot with it. You know, if I'm looking for a spinning rod, I want probably a medium heavy, something with a light tip. You know, and then you get into cranking rods. You know, Rose has a good line with Lewis. He has 3 different cranking rods. It basically covers all your cranking. And so that's a little bit of a broad question, but you got to be more specific. But if I want to pick one rod, if I had to pick one rod, I'd pick that Magnum Bass 1 rod from Lewis. It's a really great all-purpose, all-around rod.
That's awesome. Very cool. Bill, jump over to you real quick. You also were wondering, what boat are you running next season?
Well, be honest with you guys, I'm making a change. I'm going to hang my Comanche stripes up. So I've been with Ranger for 26 years. It's been really, really good. But next year you'll see me in a total high performance bass cat boat. So
wow,
looking forward to making a change, and I'll pick that thing up on Tuesday. So ready to go.
Hopefully you don't fly out going 87 miles an hour.
Well, I've lost most of my hair, so I'm going to see if I can blow the rest of it off. So it's been good, and like I said, you know, it's been a good run. And you know, things change, times change, people change, companies change. So it's time for a change. So it's been good for me, and it's going to be a good fit where I'm going. I'm really excited about making a change.
Awesome. Brandon, we're going to ask you one, you know, a little bit, you know, deeper like some of the other ones, but who do you look up most to in the fishing world? Whether it's an old pro, a current pro, a friend of yours, someone that nobody knows, who do you look up most to in the fishing industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. Before I answer that, I'd like to know how Bill is picking his boat up on Tuesday, and mine's still not even started yet. So gonna have to call Basscat. It's maybe a little senior privilege. I don't know, but I'm gonna have to call Kevin on that one. But anyway, no, you'll be extremely happy with that. Man, really, that's a pretty easy question. My dad, he was my team partner. He was my dad. Obviously, we all look up to our dads, but he was tough with a rod and reel, man. He taught me a lot. It was kind of a special time that we had to spend together. We fished lots and lots of team tournaments and stuff. And, growing up, we would go down to the Everglades and we'd do a lot of saltwater fishing and stuff. And, I could just look back at some of the things that he forced me to do, not forced me to do, but taught me to do that, kind of was preparing me for this, if this is what I wanted to do. And I don't know if he I think it was just, uh-oh, did I lose you?
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, okay. So, it was just certain things like that. Like, for instance, he used to teach me, we would go snook fishing down in the Everglades, all the time. And, you catch a 20, 25-pound snook. Back then, 20 years ago, drags didn't work so well. So if you could push the button and give a 20-pound snook line when he went to lunge, you could thumb an 8-pounder, no problem. So, just little things like that I've picked up over the years from him. If I had to pick somebody that's on our tour or that's has fished professionally for years, man, I'm kind of old school. I like to flip. It's hard to go wrong with a Denny Brower. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't fancy. He caught a lot of bass with 8 feet of line out. I made my first Forest Wood Cup, and I got a chance to stand in the bag line there at Wheeler Lake with him, and just talk. And I got my picture made. I was like a little kid, so it was a cool experience. That's I don't want to say I modeled my career after him, but I would sure like to go flip docks with that old guy one time. That's for sure.
I think we all would. Yes, definitely. Now, tons of good tips. Y'all asked good questions tonight. We got one more though coming to Glenn, and just in general, what's the greatest tip you could ever give somebody, and especially the 71 people on here? What's the greatest tip you can give them?
Well, that's a really good question. And after listening to all these guys and being around them for years on the tour, and I've watched their life, and I've been on their Facebook page, and I see who they are. They're all men of faith, and the most important thing. Decision I've ever made was when I was 12 years of age, and it was securing something that I call eternal life, and how you can know that you can become a Christian. For years, I lived my life the way I wanted to, what I thought was right and wrong, and I just felt an emptiness in my heart. There was just something missing, like Nick talked about in his story, and I was sort of doing my own plan, like Greg talked about, going his own way, and then God had to direct him. And then when Bill talked about a personal tragedy in his life, and I didn't want to have that to happen to me before I came to an encounter with Jesus Christ. And I remember I was at a church service, and it was like God was talking right to me. I felt like a big hand was on my heart. I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced that before. And it was almost like God saying, Glenn, today's the day. I had been running my own life. I've been running from God, actually, and making my own choices. And there was just no peace in my life, no sense of purpose. And that day, the minister said, Glenn, it's real simple. He said, just right there where you are, just say, almost like, God, I give up. I know I've not done things your way. And so I just said, God, I just know I've sinned. I've fallen short. I've not met up to your standards. And then he said, Glenn, the second thing is just ask God to forgive you. And man, I was carrying a lot of weight, a lot of burdens on me. And right there, I just said, God, forgive me. And when I asked God to forgive me for sins, for shortcomings in my life, man, I just felt a burden lifted off of me. And then he said the third thing is ask Jesus Christ to come in your life and give you eternal life. You know, we're not promised tomorrow. The Bible says today is the day of salvation. So there's not an accident that anybody's watching right now. There's not an accident that you're just found this event. It's God using all of us fishermen with our story of faith reaching out to you. So I want to give you that same opportunity I had when I was 12 years of age, that you could know for certain you could have eternal life and have peace with God and have a purpose in your life. And most of all, that when your life is over, you would spend eternity in heaven. So, hey, I just want to invite you to pray with me just like I did when I was 12. So let's pray right where you guys are and just say, God, I need your help in my life. Say, God, forgive me for my sins, for where I've done the wrong thing. And then say, Jesus Christ, come in my life and give me eternal life. Amen. Now listen, folks, if you prayed that and meant that in your heart, the Bible says you're saved. And we want to hear from you. I've got a couple of things I want to say, and Blake wants to hear from you. Number one is, hey, if you've made this decision, we want to celebrate. So go ahead and type, like where you're sitting right there, hey, I prayed that prayer with Glenn. And then tell us where you're from, what state you're in, what country you're in. And then also go to Blake's website, blakesmith.fish, and click the button, say, I decided to follow Jesus. And we've got some neat prizes and stuff. And I also want to encourage everybody that's listening, hey, go to all our Facebook pages. Look at some of our videos. You can find out more about us and more about our journey and how, hey, we're not perfect and we live our life every day by faith. And we depend on God's strength to be godly men. Thanks, guys.
That's awesome, Glenn. Thanks for sharing. Tyler, thank you so much for asking all the questions tonight. It's been truly awesome. Guys, and it is so cool getting to see the people that have prayed to receive Christ tonight and that are going to get to spend eternity in heaven with all of us one day. So this is super duper awesome. Guys, we still want to be able to connect with you. So if you did make a decision tonight, go to my website, blakesmith.fish. If you remember my name and what I do, blakesmith.fish. Click that tab that says, I prayed to receive Christ tonight, and give us some information. I promise you, one of us is going to follow up with you in the next few days. We're going to call you. We're going to love on you. And we actually have a free gift that we want to send every one of you that is going to help you in your first 30 days of becoming a Christian and becoming, closer to God. So, please do that. Go on the site and click that. And thank you again. We love every single one of you, and we're so thankful for you. But here's what's cool, too. We're about to give some stuff away. And I know a lot of you want to win some stuff. So what we've done is we've entered everybody into this random draw that is picking names. And I'm going to start with the first sponsorship package and go through that. And here's what's cool, too. So if by chance somebody wins and they are not on here tonight, if you are on here tonight, please, let us know. But what we're going to do is if somebody wins something that's not on here at the end of the night after we've closed this down, I'm going to look and make sure, and we will randomly pick some other winners of those products. So anyway, so first thing first, we're going to give away a New Threads Fade Sun Shirt. And let me admit this last person here, New Threads Fade Sun Shirt. And that is going to Aiden, and I'm going to mess these names up, I promise you, but Aiden Kildergaard. So Aiden, congratulations, you won that sun shirt, and you can send me a message or we're going to contact you afterwards and let you know. The next thing is an Arctic Ice $100 gift card to their website and free shipping. So you can buy anything on their website, $100, and they're going to ship it for free. And that is going to Fisher Barber. So congratulations, Fisher. The next thing we're going to do is we're giving away 3. Each person that wins is going to get 1. I'm going to mail it to you. An Extant Labs Real Care Kit. They've been an awesome sponsor of this event. Going to give you that Real Care Kit that's about a $13, $14 value. So the first one is going to Sonia Sturkey from Alabama, Lynette, Alabama. The second one is going to Robert Higgs, Sr. So Junior, you didn't win it. Senior, Robert Higgs Sr., you won it. And then the third one is going to Tyler Smuts, and I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, but from Messina, New York. All right. All right, so the next one, this is huge. Are you ready? So this is one that Nick Lebrun brought. He's sponsored by Rattle Trap. This is an $80 gift bag from Rattle Trap, and I hope you're ready. It is going to Cole Savage. So Cole Savage, I hope you're on here. You won a huge Rattle Trap gift bag. All right. So the next two are reels from Abu Garcia. See, these are Revo Beast. I actually got them right. I got one right here, so you get to see it. Brand new Abu Garcia Revo Beast are going to the next two people. So let's see who we got here. The first one is Brian Nelson from Shreveport, Louisiana. And the second one is going to Ken Bake from Mingo Junction, Ohio. All right. And now we're going to give away two, well, one at a time. Pringles, a case of Pringles. This is from Greg Bohannan, and he's going to get these cases of Pringles to you. I don't know if you picked the flavor. That's something you got to ask Greg. But the first one is going to Ross McMillan, not McMillan, but McMillan from Indianapolis, Indiana. That's up there in Bill's neck of the woods, right? All right. And the second one is going to Preston Keller. So Preston Keller will contact you and let you know about getting that case of Pringles. I mean, who wouldn't love a case of Pringles? So that's really super duper exciting. All right. So the next thing we've got, the last two things. All right. So we got a crap load of power baits, a bunch of power baits. And I say power baits, they're Berkeley hard baits. We've got a bunch of stuff. There's some little Bad Shad 5. We got a bunch of baits, and we're going to do two gift bags of Berkeley baits and hard baits and soft baits. And the first one is going to Jeff Ness in Plant City, Florida. And we got back-to-back Florida people here. The next one is going to Zach Kuhn, and I hope I spelled it right. Last name Kuhn, Zach Kuhn. Guys, you could email us. If not, we're going to email you here. But don't forget to click the website, blakesmith.fish. And if you made a decision tonight, we want to know about it because we want to follow up with you. Guys, thank y'all so much. Thank you, everybody that's been in attendance. It's been a great night. Look for one of these in a city near you. But also, you know, to each one of the pros that are on here, thank you so much for your willingness to share tonight. And God bless everybody that's been on here. We love you, and good night.